Hi, everyone. An absolute warm welcome to the Me Vision Academy Award presentation to someone who needs no introduction, Mmusi Maimane, the leader of Bosa. But the way he says it, when he says build one South Africa, it just has a nice ring to it as opposed to me saying it. So it's wonderful to have him here. We have the Successful Leader Award that we're going to hand to him and then ask him our key question that we ask every leader in every industry and in every country that we meet that qualify for this award to answer. And I'll share that with you in a moment. Mmusi, welcome.
Adrian, thank you so much for having me. I feel a great privilege and an honor to be with you this morning. Thank you.
Yeah, the honor is ours. And I always say that, but I really mean it. It's not easy to find successful leaders. We think there's lots more than people believe, but it's still difficult to find them, all over the show. So I'm going to do the actual award handover to you. Let me share screen. That's the exclusive recognition of successful leadership awarded to Mmusi Maimane for at least these elements, consistently leading self and others successfully. And under self and others, it's also family. It's your own personal life and those that you lead in your party and outside. Also successfully leading in the political space for a long time, currently as co-founder and leader of BOSA, Build One South Africa. Continually striving to be part of the solution in South Africa, to challenge the status quo and seeing what you do as a privilege. The one thing you said to me on the phone when I commented last week that, gee, it must be so crazy and busy. And you said it absolutely is, but it's such a privilege to be doing this. So I added that to your award, if you don't mind. And then finally, your commitment to inspiring future successful political leaders. In many ways, your energy, the way you speak, you've got a lot going for you that I think inspires a lot of future political leaders. And it's always a privilege for me to sign on behalf of Me Vision Academy, where it's all about a journey to best self. And we think that you're on that journey as a leader.
Wow. Wow.
Congratulations.
No, thank you so, so much. And yeah, it's a deep. We don't do what we do in pursuit of recognition. And every so often, when someone stops you in your tracks and says, "Hey, this is what we observe you doing," yeah, it's really impactful. So thank you. Yeah, it's really impactful to me. So thank you.
Absolute pleasure. Okay, the big question is, in essence, what have you learned about how to be a successful leader yourself by watching others, I guess? And we just want a tip or two. We kind of force our leaders to think hard about what is the essence of successful leadership. Your thoughts?
I think what leaders have that everyone else in the organization either chooses to back or to follow is a deep sense of conviction. And I say your convictions because your convictions are a culmination of what your historical ethical basis is, your vision as far as what would fix society or whatever you are leading in, ultimately your resolute commitment to working doggedly to achieve that. And I think the best way to sum it is conviction, because when conviction is what is the thing that if we get in a car together and we get into an accident, someone has to be left holding the steering wheel. And that's what I think leaders do. I also do think that it's about the sense of going, I get to hold the steering wheel because I am doggedly committed to either fixing this in the world or getting us to this destination. So I guess in some ways, when I think about my wife is much smaller than me, and I've been I've been by her side 3 times as she gave birth to our children. And I can't at any of those points remember her going, even thinking about the fact that this is too hard, I'm going to give it up, because she held on to something that she believes she wants to see it through, however painful it is. In fact, our son was born without any epidural. So I've always been proud of my wife for being able to stick through an exorbitant pain threshold to get through that. But she had that sense of saying she's got to win at this and achieve that. But when I think I hold at my desk Nelson Mandela's empty cell picture, which I took when I went to Robben Island. They let us into his cell and I took a picture. And I framed it because I thought to myself, with him sitting in his cell thinking, I can't go bury my own son, in the most painful moment in his life, as he reflects in his book. But there was a deep conviction that South Africa could be a free country for all people. And that's what, in some ways, kept him inside bars, bizarrely, rather than outside. Because if I've learned anything about the caliber of leaders in that whole struggle period, is that it was unthinkable of them to escape or to betray the struggle, so much so that they were disciplined even about saying, we will remain in prison if that's what you ask us to. And if you'll remember, Nelson Mandela was offered the right to be out of prison way earlier than she accepted finally, because he held those convictions. So for me, I think it's the difference between having a two-seater plane that, when faces turbulent, will face difficult days, or a Boeing vision conviction that says to you, let's just keep going even through the storm. So when I look at my own life, whether it was whatever organization I've always stood or led in, the one true thing, and I was looking at it over the last couple of days, I've just written a book, has been one thing that just says, just stick true to one South Africa. Just stick true to bringing all South Africans together. And by divine accident, I'm married to a white South African with mixed race kids. So even if I was to forego that conviction, there'll always be a family reminder thereof. But in any organization, I've held on dearly to the fact that post 1994, the job we've got to do is to build this one South Africa. And whether that be in civil society, whether that's in business, whatever, we must think of these things. And that's a conviction I hold. And I would hope that that's a gift I could leave South Africa. So that's what I would think for me has meant for leadership for me.
Mmusi, thank you. I don't know, something in me is thinking of that word conviction. And maybe conviction is the sum total of a message plus authenticity equals conviction. So a lot of leaders give messages, but it doesn't land. Okay, you can be a good speaker and then it lands better perhaps. But ultimately, if you can give a message, but you're not authentically passionate about it, you can act it out, but it's not conviction until it's real. So people can feel conviction only if it's real. If it's not, then it's something else. Maybe a good message, might be some, but it's not conviction. I don't know if I'm making sense.
I asked a leader once, I said, what keeps you going over a long period of time? I was waiting for some form of inspiration. Their answer was short. They said to me, well, what else could I be doing? And I think that's what sums up a sense of conviction, is to say, well, what else? I think, I think we can all create a message of vision. I think we can even, all of us, I look at the posters that stand up. In some ways, we all can agree on the message about what the future of this country must be. But it takes something to wake up every day and saying, what else could I be doing? I've got nothing else to do. This is it. This is my life's work conviction. I will, and I don't want to overlay this point, but I was so inspired. Another leader I spoke to was a guy called Kusta Jack, who was in Gqeberha. And Kusta was arrested at the same time as Steve Biko and many other political leaders did. And he says to me, they were interrogated in the 5th floor of the Sanlam Center, which has been now, that's what it's been called today. And I asked him, I said to him, why did they layer the floors? Did they think that if you put the most dangerous criminals, or at the time as they were perceived to be criminals, if they put them at the top floor, then that means they can't escape? He said the thought of escaping had never crossed our minds, because we knew we could not betray this very struggle we're fighting. So to me, conviction sits at that point of the integrity of your own beliefs relative to something you can't betray. It's a core that you hold on to, however successful you feel or however unsuccessful you feel, you've got no alternative. And I think that's, for me, what has allowed people to go, okay, maybe we'll follow you guys. I've got some staff members who have stuck with me all the way through. And when I look at them, I ask them, why do you stick it out? I mean, salaries are not phenomenal in our industry or all of that. They don't get benefits. They don't get this extraordinary pension. But, I'm inspired when I hear them go, hey, man, you are mad enough to think that you could make a difference here. We'll follow you. And sometimes it isn't always clear, but we know we can trust something that sits inside you for us to have a conviction to follow.
Mmusi, just maybe last question. Has that conviction been challenged? I mean, you've gone through obviously tough times. We know your background. We know you were at the pinnacle and then gone and then quietish for a while and then came back with a big bang now with a very important elections coming up. Were there times that in your own room, in your own little corner, you were just tested?
Yeah. I mean, the 24th of October 2019, I resigned from not only Parliament but and the DA, but as leader of the opposition. That's a very dark day, and so you become challenged about whether you think it's possible to keep fighting when you sometimes look at election results and you think it's a bit like for any CEO, you look at quarterly results and you think, am I crazy enough to think that this thing will work or won't work? So I think the greatest temptation any leader has to overcome is the temptation to quit. I don't actually think successful people are the most talented. I don't genuinely believe that. I do think successful people are those who don't quit. and I think, I've just taken up running. I got COVID and then I decided to take up running. And even when you run, sometimes there are other athletes who run past you, they sprint past you. But you've got to say to yourself, in the marathon of life, or the marathon that you are running, you can be distracted by what's outpacing you or whatever. But you got to just stick it out. Just stick it out, one step in front of the other. Stick it out all the way through. So for me, that's, if there's anything I would say, is that the temptation, that question where you are challenged every day about your convictions, the temptation to quit is often frequent. And I could say maybe even after these elections, the temptation will exist for whatever reason. But you've got to keep your head game, because I think a leader who has quit is worse than a leader who's stumbling towards success, if I could put it.
No, well said. Yeah, thank you. I know that feeling. I've often wanted to quit with our vision, which is such an important one to mobilize successful leaders. I really have often wanted to quit, but I just, something keeps me going. I guess it's the conviction. Mmusi Maimane, thank you so much for your valuable time in this final week before some few days, in fact, and thank you for putting the signs behind you off, and just saying, let's just talk leadership. I appreciate that. Ultimately, it is about good leadership, and look forward to sharing some of your gems with the world out there. Thank you.
No, my great privilege. Thank you so much. Thank you.